Greetings and welcome back to another episode of The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, the show where I, the curator, discuss my personal favorite show of all time, personal favorite franchise of all time, Doctor Who. And today we are continuing our robotic discussion. But full disclosure, and this is mostly on me, I already had Marie Wilson scheduled as another guest for pretty much the whole month, but because I did an oopsie, as I usually tend to do, let's just say we had to postpone our original recording date, and, well, she's no longer available, I'm afraid, to come on this show for this episode specifically, but thankfully, I got a wonderful last-minute replacement. Man, I'm always happy to share the screen with him, and I'm so grateful that he stepped in at the last minute to record this episode with me. Soda.
Hey,
how are you doing, Soda?
It's always easy for me to drop in, one, because I really don't have many hobbies outside of doing this. And two, we were already recording something else after this, so it just made sense to do it all at once.
Yeah, cool. And that's really the benefit of having the only two watchable shows on this channel.
And making most consistent, yes.
Yeah. And speaking of the other show that we have to record later after this, I actually came prepared for when it is next time for me to record something with you, but I might actually end up using it on this show. Who knows? I came prepared with two extra things. The first is...
We don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah, and the other one is...
Will you stop interrupting me?
Shut up.
So yeah, let's see how often I'm going to get to use those two gems on the other show. But for this show, we got the birthday section as per usual. Now, for those of you who watched the show, especially last week, you may have noticed that I kind of let slip that last week was one of the most underwhelming weeks as far as the birthday sections have been. Totally not the case for this week.
Oh yay!
Yeah, and I'm gonna go on and say this: we have a whopping 3 doctors in the birthday section, in addition to all the other people.
Oh shit!
Okay, so should we go right ahead and start us off?
Yeah, buddy.
I think you're really going to enjoy this birthday section. First of all, and of course we are counting from the 11th of April all the way to the 17th, where this episode is hopefully dropping. And on the 11th, Mr. Soda, did you know that Matt Ryan was in an episode of Torchwood?
No!
Yes, he was in one episode of Torchwood. He was like a super obscure, minuscule character, but you know what? He's John Constantine, so he gets the respect.
What season?
Season 2. The episode is called Meet. Yeah, he played a character called Dale. And now he's off to...
Shut up.
Yeah, he's off to go and flex with his DVD.
This is because I want to see if I remember the episode, that's all.
Did you watch season 2 of Torchwood?
Yeah, I watched them. I've only done one full watch through, and it was a long.
It's the episode with the giant whale thing, where Reese finds out about what Gwen is actually doing.
Really, he's in that episode?
Yes, I'm just as shocked as you are when I found that out.
Keep talking. I'm gonna try to find a picture of him in it.
Okay, cool. So the second person we have today, and again, this just goes to show you how incredible this birthday section is going to end up looking by the end of it. So on the 13th of April, we have the 5th Doctor, Peter Davison.
The Doctor's father-in-law.
Yeah, and the Doctor's daughter's father. Did you see what I did there?
I did, yes.
Of course, he played other characters besides the Doctor, but mainly characters who sort of took the Doctor's form. And he also narrated a bunch of short trips on Big Finish. He also reprised the role on Big Finish. Just looking at this website right over here, just playing the Doctor, he's got 217 credits in 130 entries, which is insane.
Who would
So,
you
yeah.
say has the most encompassing all?
Probably Tom Baker.
Yeah, that would make sense.
I mean, it was either him or probably Paul McGann, ironically. But yeah, and speaking of people with hundreds of credits in the world of Doctor Who, on the 14th, Uncle Terry, Terrence Dix. Oh, what?
I said, oh, okay, I recognize that face.
Okay, cool. Yeah, he was given the nickname Uncle Terry by the fandom. Basically, he was script editor from all the way back in the Troughton era, all the way up to the very tail end of the John Pertwee era. He also wrote many of the of Doctor Who related stuff. Although when he wrote the Five Doctors, the 20th anniversary special, he wrote the Ultimate Adventure, and Seven Keys to Doomsday, the stage plays. He wrote Destiny of the Doctors, the video game. Of course, he did such a magnificent role. He also he also adapted many of the classic series into the Target novelizations back in the day. Like, this guy is like the architect of Doctor Who, at least in the classic series.
It's not who I thought it was. I thought it was the guy in the episode Rose that introduced Rose to the concept of the Doctor. Kind of, there's a big resemblance.
Clive Finch.
Yeah, there's a resemblance there. That's why I thought, oh, I know who he is. No, I don't.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the name of the guy, but I'll look him up later. Now, speaking of people with massive contribution to Doctor Who, both Doctor Who and Torchwood, sir, what was that?
I said Captain Jack.
No, we already talked about Captain Jack. That's
right. Yes,
yeah, but this next guy is someone who fought Daleks for a whole new generation of people, a hero for a brand new generation, Peter Capaldi!
Attaboy.
Yeah, I was trying to match the energy from the announcement thing that was.
I remember watching that announcement when it happened, because when I was into my heights of my Doctor Who fandom.
I mean, the smile on his face when he was announced.
Totally.
You cannot top this. And you know what? I still maintain he is a great Doctor.
There aren't that many people, I don't think, that would argue against you on that.
Yeah, he's a great Doctor. It's a shame he had a horrible companion, but let's not get into that at the moment. And speaking of the Peter Capaldi era, the day after Peter, on the 15th, Maisie Williams.
Yes, I did see it was her birthday the other day.
Yeah, obviously she's more famous for Game of Thrones and I suppose New Mutants, but she also played the character Me during the Capaldi era. Not me, the character is literally called Me. Yeah. And speaking of characters with massive contributions to the realm of Doctor Who, on the 16th, I've been wanting for weeks and months to have this guy on, Paul Mark Davis. You probably wouldn't recognize him by the name, but let me just give you a bit of a heads up. He played the iconic character, the Trickster, in the Sarah Jane Adventures, one of the greatest villains in that show, and one of the greatest villains in Doctor Who of all time. He also played the chieftain of the Future Kind in the episode Utopia. You might recognize his face from there.
Yes.
He was another random one-off character in Torchwood, the episode Exit Wounds, the season 2 finale.
Good episode.
Yeah. He was Corachinus, the king of the Shadowkin, in the spin-off show Class. Okay? So he was in Doctor Who, Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, and Class.
He really made his way.
And he was also in the Doom Coalition alongside Paul McGann, and he was General Trave in the Gallifrey Time War series. This guy has had his... I apologize for the analogy, but he had his fingers in so many Doctor Who pies. It's way too many to count.
Yeah, he had his tendrils and everything. Man, he's busy. He was busy in the universe.
Yep. And speaking of people who are busy in the universe, also on the 16th, Mr. Derek Sherwin. He was script editor on such Second Doctor episodes such as The Dominators, The Mind Robber, The Space Pirates, The Web of Fear, Fury from the Deep, The Introduction of a Sonic Screwdriver, and The Wheel in Space. He also wrote The Invasion and was uncredited for writing The Mind Robber, and he was producer on The War Games, Patrick Troughton's final episode, and Spearhead from Space, which is John Pertwee's first episode.
Oh,
so
wow.
He basically oversaw the transition from not just the Second Doctor to the Third Doctor, but also from the 60s to the 70s, from black and white to color. This guy is great.
So it sounds like he's also responsible for giving us a Sonic Screwdriver as well.
Yeah, actually, no. The second time that the Sonic Screwdriver showed up was the Dominators. So, yeah, you're right. Also on the 16th, it's strange to go from Derek Sherwin to Rico Ross. As seen in this picture, he only has one singular credit as the ringmaster of the greatest show in the galaxy.
Yes, in Sylvester McCoy's era.
Yep. And it's the episode that this show is named after. So of course I gotta put him on this list.
Naturally, you know how I was able to figure out the quality of the image.
Yeah. And on the 17th, Mr. Cavan Scott. He was another Cavan. He was another writer of many, many Big Finish episodes, but primarily he also wrote a lot of Doctor Who novels, in particular the Project something series, like Project Twilight, Project Valhalla, Project Lazarus, etc., etc. Essentially, he's the creator of the character Nimrod, a massive, massive character in the extended universe of Doctor Who, and a very, very, very fan favorite, a character I wish they bring to the show proper at some point or another. Also on the 17th...
Never say never.
Never say never. I mean, we're getting Beep the Meep for crying out loud.
There you go. Never say never.
Yeah. Nimrod is not far behind. We're getting Beep the Meep, and according to Russell T. Davies, the return of Mavic Chen. So who knows?
Sure.
But also on the 17th, David Bradley.
Yes, Mr. Filch himself.
And Mr. Argus Filch. I mean, he was recently Geppetto in the
horror movie. Yep.
Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio. I mean, he was also in Sergio Adventures. He was in the Matt Smith season, but obviously
dinosaurs on a spaceship.
Yeah, but honestly, we don't know why he's here. He's the Doctor. He's the first Doctor, the new first Doctor. First in an adventure in space and time. Then again, as the Doctor properly in Twice Upon a Time, and he's still playing the Doctor on Big Finish till this very day.
Great actor.
Amazing actor.
It's always going to be Mr. Filch. It's going to be the first one that pops in my mind, but he makes a great first Doctor. He does a good impression of William Hartnell.
What I love about it is he doesn't try to be too much like Hartnell. He's just making his own, and that's what you want in a performance like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Also on the 17th, a character we're probably not going to see anytime soon, Kevin Lindsay. As seen in this picture, of course, he played the incredibly racist and offensive character Cho Ji, a character with great intentions behind it, but unfortunately, it's filled to the brim with yellow face and stereotypical.
Oh, so that's an Asian character.
Yeah. The first time we ever get to see a Time Lord regenerating outside of the Doctor. But on that note, he also played two other iconic characters, Jingo Lynx and Commander Steyer, from the Time Warrior and the Sontaran Experiment, respectively. So basically, he was our first ever Sontaran. So we got to give him credit for that.
No.
And speaking of the Time Warrior, we have also on the 17th, Mr. Brian Miller. He played a character called Dugdale in Snake Dance. He was a Dalek voice in Resurrection of the Daleks and Remembrance of the Daleks. He was also playing a character called Harry in The Mad Woman in the Attic. And he also played a Trump character, Barney, in Deep Breath, Peter Capaldi's first episode. But most notably, he was also the husband and now widower, I should say, of Elizabeth Sladen.
Oh,
So he was married to Sarah Jane Smith, and their daughter, I should say, Sadie Miller, is now playing Sarah Jane Smith on Big Finish in honor of her mother.
Sarah Jane.
Yeah. And finally, on the 17th, someone who may not have made as big of an impact on the world of Doctor Who as any of the other people I just mentioned, but I did feel like it's important to note that this next person I'm about to show you is the oldest living Doctor Who actor ever.
It's not Ian Chesterton, is it?
What?
It's not Ian, is it?
No. He's 104 years old, and he played the character of Bilal, the leader of the Exolons, in the famous episode Death to the Daleks, where he looked like this.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I didn't show his picture right away. Because, even though he's 104 years old, he doesn't look like that in real life. That's just the character he played. Yeah, but, it's a one-off character from a controversial yet beloved episode, but, he's the oldest living actor to appear in Doctor Who. So, gotta give him credit for that.
Yeah, no kidding.
And to all the wonderful list of people we had today, thank you all. We quite literally could not do this without you.
Amen.
And my voice is starting to go out on me. So, Mr. Soda, why don't we talk about some robots for today, eh?
Let's do it. Let's delve into the realm of technology.
Yeah, now, again, reminder, I specifically tailor-made this list of robots to the marvelous Marie Wilson, because I thought these are robots that I thought she would like, because if you watched last week's episode, a lot of the robots that I showed her were like these really cute, adorable thingies that ended up turning horribly homicidal and murderous. And I kind of felt like she had a bad taste in her mouth after seeing that one. So I thought we'd start off with some a little bit more pleasant robots, and we're going to jump into the comic realm for this first one. This is the one that I'm really, really sorry that you didn't get to see, because I think she really would have loved to have seen Vesuvius.
Why did he look like a nerd with no confidence?
That's kind of the idea of the character. That's really the point. So a little bit of real-world background. So Doctor Who has been on television since 1963, obviously, but Doctor Who has also been in print medium since 1964 with various Doctor Who annuals, which were a combination of both comic book stories and short stories, but also Doctor Who has also enjoyed a regular appearance on TV comic, a BBC produced comic that featured comic book adventures of many TV characters, including Doctor Who. But in the late 70s, with some big involvement from Tom Baker, Doctor Who got its first official, proper, ongoing magazine in the form of Doctor Who Monthly, sometimes known as Doctor Who Magazine, and for a time was also known as Doctor Who Weekly. But for the most part, it's basically always gone by the name of Doctor Who Magazine, which is it's still running today, and it's currently on 580 something issue or something like that. Yeah, and it's still telling Doctor Who stories still to this day, with David Tennant's 14th Doctor sort of bridging the gap between the ending of Power of the Doctor and the 60th anniversary special.
It's been enough time, but it still feels weird to say David Tennant as the 14th Doctor.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I don't know. It might still actually feel weird after we see the episode.
True.
Who knows? But also famously, that comic, in the first couple of issues, also introduced the character of Beep the Meep, which will feature in the 60th anniversary. But yeah, that was really the first ongoing Doctor Who magazine, which was a sort of a co-production between BBC and Marvel Comics. I think Marvel technically still owns the rights to the magazine, unless there's something that I'm missing at the moment. But so yeah, Marvel basically has the rights for most of these characters, including Beep the Meep, as well as Vesuvius. And obviously, when that comic book was introduced, they did not start small. They opened with a massive banger in the form of the Iron Legion. Have you ever heard of the story of the Iron Legion?
I've only ever heard of Doctor Who magazine, and that's about it.
Okay, so let me just give you a bit of a heads up. So the story of the Iron Legion, in and of itself, is pretty self-explanatory. It's what if Rome never fell? What if the Roman Empire never fell and actually went on to conquer other galaxies and basically conquer the entire universe? And they basically robotized themselves, hence the Iron Legion. So right off the bat, you get a very cool premise for a Doctor Who story.
It's almost like the Romans turned themselves into Cybermen.
Or just, straight up robotic characters. Oh, oops, sorry. Where's the most of the Roman soldiers, the centurions and the generals are completely entirely robotic. They could actually feature on this episode as well, but I chose to go with the character of Vesuvius. This right here is the character of General Ironicus, the leader of the Roman armies. And so the doctor accidentally sorry, my mouse slipped. The Doctor accidentally finds himself in an alternate reality where the Romans basically took over the rest of the galaxies, and he sort of has to find a way of undoing what they did and go back to his reality, fighting General Ironicus in the process. Now, in the process, he also gets captured and is placed on a prisoner sail barge where he meets the character Morris, which is a cyborg character. I decided, I said earlier on in this month that I'm not going to have any cyborg characters on this week, but I felt like Morris needed a shout out because he's a really good character and has a very tragic ending. Now, during their escape, the Doctor and Morris stumble upon the character of Vesuvius, who is a historian robot. He's the robot historian, keeper of the flame of truth of, is it the flame of truth or flame of liberty? I can't remember at the moment, but
it's right
there. Freedom. Sorry, my bad. The flame of he's the keeper of the flame of freedom. But as you can see, he sometimes has a problem keeping that flame going.
Which would explain the name Vesuvius.
Yeah, the Vesuvius. Hence the flame coming out of his head. So he's basically a robot historian, keeper of the history of Neo-Rome, and by the end, he basically becomes Caesar. Spoiler for a really good comic book story. But he's very much what you would expect a Doctor Who robot to look like. I mean, look at him. He's got a walking cane. He's got the expression and just the way he talks. It's like he's got this really cute stammer. Hold on, I have a couple of clips to show you. Hold on.
Oh, so
what?
Sounds like he's got a stutter.
Yeah, like I said, he's got a stutter. That's what I said. He's always stuttering, and he's always referring to himself as I. And he's always going around like, "Oh, dearie I, dearie I, dearie I."
That's like Alpha 5 in Doctor Who.
Yeah, pretty much. He's Alpha 5. Sorry, you interrupted the.
Sorry, I did my Alpha 5 impression.
Dearie I. Oh, dearie I.
Wait a second. I just forgot something. Did you just interrupt me?
Will you stop interrupting me?
It was not on purpose.
Oh, dearie I, these days. Everywhere he walks, he's like, these days. He's always frustrated about something. And eventually, of course, he helps the Doctor and Morris stage a coup and overthrow the Malevolous, who are keeping Rome in chains and having the Emperor Caesar Adolphus as prison, as their puppet, essentially. And like I said, eventually after they overthrow the Malevolous and the Doctor finds a way to trap them as he usually tends to do, he appoints Vesuvius as the Roman Caesar, and allegedly he brings Rome into a brighter future, as it were. Now, Now, what you're seeing here is like a couple of originally the first 100-something, several hundred issues, all comic book adventures in Doctor Who magazine were completely black and white. So what you're seeing here is like a colorized version of it in a Marvel re-release from 1985 of the first 50-something, 60 issues of comic stories of Doctor Who magazine. So highly worth checking it out. And also, the character was so incredibly popular that he even made the transition into Big Finish, when Big Finish essentially decided to experiment. So they basically brought two of the iconic Fourth Doctor adventures from Doctor Who magazine, namely the Iron Legion, as well as the Star Beast, which introduced Beep the Meep, and they basically Big Finishized it with Tom Baker. Now, I did say Tom Baker had a huge involvement in getting the magazine up and running. He never actually read the stories his Doctor was featured in.
Sounds familiar.
So, yeah, and so when he was given the script for the Iron Legion and the Star Beast, he basically sent Nicholas Briggs, the executive producer of Big Finish, he sent him a email where all the email said was, "This is," all caps, "different."
Very nice.
And it's like the most Tom Baker thing to do ever.
Mm-hmm.
And as Vesuvius usually says,
Oh,
these days. So what do you think of our good character, the Lord Vesuvius?
That one would be a fun cartoon. The reason I say that is it's like I know Russell T Davies is talking about expanding the Doctor Who universe. I would like to see them animate some of these, or do like a web series or something.
I mean, we could. I'll do you one better. Why not just keep up the adventures of Vesuvius after the Doctor left?
That too, yeah.
Just him ruling a Neo-Rome as Caesar.
Yeah.
And speaking of Russell T Davies, here's another sort of Russell T Davies creation, Mr. Dread. My name is Dread, Mr. Dread.
Sarah Jane?
Yes, but before we talk about Sarah Jane, did you know, Sir Soda, did you know that the Men in Black basically exist in the Doctor Who universe?
No, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, so basically the Men in Black, or rather the Alliance of Shades, as they're called in the Doctor Who universe, were introduced in the David Tennant story Dreamland, the famous animated story. Have you ever heard or seen Dreamland?
I have heard of it. I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch it.
Well, let me just say this: the animation does not hold up.
I've seen stills and stuff like that. Yeah.
At its time, it was very much comparable to the original, the Clone Wars CG animated TV show. Unfortunately, the animation in Clone Wars really held up a lot. It still holds up today. This episode does not at all. But it was still a fun one-off that featured David Tennant as the 10th Doctor and his future wife, Georgia Tennant, at the time Georgia Moffat, as a pseudo-companion character. And it also featured one of my favorite names for aliens, Rivesh Mantalax, as like a Roswell. Like, seriously, watch the episode. It's a authentically looking Roswell spaceship Area 51 alien. And I'm not making this up. And also, it also featured the new villains, the Viperox, the King of the Viperox, voiced by David Warner. Just wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
But also, on a side note, what?
I said, yep. No, David Warner was great. May he rest in peace.
Yeah, may he rest in peace. He was a great Doctor on Big Finish. But
not just that, the dude was just a great actor, period. Like, I've seen him in so many things. Like, he always had that it factor that whenever he was on screen, you couldn't help but be drawn towards him.
Yeah, I know that. I just said that because it's a Doctor Who show.
No, true, but I was expanding for the audience too, for the people not watching. Like, he's outside of his stuff in Doctor Who, like as Lovejoy in Titanic, as the Doctor in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, like the dude's was a good actor.
Yeah, he was one of the greats.
Yeah.
Did you know, fun fact, he was also really, really close friends with John Hurt. So when they were making the second box set for the War Doctor with John Hurt, one of the characters they wrote specifically for David Warner, but they haven't actually asked him to play it yet. So one day, David Warner just shows up unannounced at the studio to say hello to John, his old friend, and while he was there, they were like, "Say, hey, so would you mind playing this character for us?" He's like, "Sure, of course," because of course he did a lot of Big Finish stuff for them. So it was just par for the course. It was just a lucky accident that he just happened to be there at the time.
Well, that's pretty cool to hear.
Yeah, and going back to Dreamland, I wish I had the Stay on Target meme right now, but so going back to Dreamland, they also introduced the Alliance of Shades, as you can see here, the Men in Black in the Doctor Who universe. Their leader, Mr. Dread, and flanked behind him are Mr. Pain, Mr. Terror, and Mr. Apprehension. And these, what?
Fun.
Yeah, very, very fun. So they basically pulled for more of the actual real world mythology of the Men in Black, not so much with the comic book, which was originally turned into a film series starring Will Smith as the Men in Black. What?
So, yep, I'd make this shit look good.
I made this shit look good.
Actually, I said that once. I got into a tux for a wedding, and I sent a picture myself to my friends, and they all commented me. And that's literally what I replied back was like, "I make this shit look good."
You know, I don't think he actually says shit in the movie.
Yeah,
like, you know what's the difference between you and me? I make this look good. Staying on target.
Yeah.
Into the Alliance of Shades, they pulled more from the original real world mythology of the Men in Black, where basically they were androids with weapons in their arms, which they used to apprehend people. Now, they were brought back in the realm of Doctor Who in the Sarah Jane Adventures. They brought back into live action, which unfortunately one of them didn't make it for whatever reason. So it was only just Mr. Dread and two of the original four androids. They were guarding this this big vault. And the episode was called Vault of Secrets, and it featured the return of a familiar familiar Sarah Jane Ventures villain in Androvax of the Veil, which was originally a full-on bad guy in his debut episode, Prisoner of the Jadoon. But in this episode, he came back as a sort of sympathetic anti-hero. Basically, he was dying, and he risked, or rather, gave his life to save the rest of his species. He originally thought that his species was wiped out, presumably by him, if I remember correctly. But he basically he had a change of heart towards the end of his life, and he wanted to go back to the Vault of Secrets and resurrect his people. To essentially give them a second chance of life, where the vault itself was guarded by Mr. Dread, who initially was antagonistic towards Androvex and Sarah Jane, trying to keep the vault itself a secret, as they say. But after two of the other two people from the Alliance of Shades who were guarding the vault at that time got destroyed, when Clyde Langer, the other character from the Sarah Jane's crew, basically he stood right at the center of a corridor where two of them were locking on onto him. They were aiming both of their weapons at him, and he just jumped out of the way right when they fired, so they both got blown up.
Nice.
So realizing that he was alone, Mr. Dread realized that he basically had no function anymore if he was on his own. So he sacrificed his power cell to power up the vault, which would eventually reanimate the ship that Androvax used to essentially send his people back to their home planet, essentially, with Androvax and Mr. Dread essentially giving both of their lives away to so that this other race could live.
May we forever remember them.
Yep. So something I forgot, and this is again, I wish that Marie was here. But one thing that we tried to do is I present a robot to her, and she would come up with a sort of Star Wars equivalent to that, because she was obviously the mistress of the Star Wars lore. But since I have you here, do you have anything to say regarding the Men in Black specifically themselves in the Doctor Who world?
In particular, like there's only one thing I can compare it to, and naturally, it's the Men in Black. So
The Men in Black from the movie series or the real world conspiracy theory?
the movie, because I'm more familiar with them.
But nothing else to say?
Not really. But I mean, yeah, I mean, every time we have discussed this Dreamland series before, and I've always wanted to watch it. Just unfortunately, like everything else, kind of gets put on the back burner.
Right. Well, I'd still recommend give it a watch because, again, even though the animation doesn't really hold up, it's still an interestingly cool story. And speaking of interestingly cool stories, the next robot or android we are going to talk about in this episode is the tragic character Rachel Burroughs.
Okay.
Okay, so right off the bat, you can kind of tell she's not very robotic.
No, he's more a humanoid.
Okay, so she was introduced in the masterful story in the Diary of River Song series, and the episode was called 529, where basically, remember what we said that the Iron Legion was basically, what if Rome never fell and conquered the rest of the galaxy? Mr. Dread and his folks are basically, what if the Men in Black were real? So 529 basically begs to ask the question, what if Y2K actually happened?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so basically on this random day, specifically on 529 in the afternoon, there was a massive power blackout in one area of the world, and it basically migrated west along with the time itself. So every time zone that reached 529, there was a massive blackout, and reports were of poison in the water. So it was basically just literally a race against time of trying to get away from 559 all around the world, where countries were shutting down one by one, time, escaping time zones. And in this whole adventure was Rachel Burroughs. Now, as you can see here, she has a mother and father in this story who unfortunately couldn't have their own kids, especially in their age. So they scraped up all their money and bought a synthetic. That's really what they were called at the time, a synthetic robot that essentially looked like a young teenage girl, so that they can have the girl that they always dreamt of having. First of all, the concept itself is really, really great. The idea of having something like that, where parents can have kids, but they can have synthetic kids that will essentially act as the real children. And she was smart enough to be the child that they always wanted, but unfortunately, they had to get her away from the worldwide blackout because, as you know, she's a synthetic, which meant that if she was in the range of the blackout, she would shut down. So it was basically River Song's mission at the time to get her and her family as far away from the blackout as possible, but unfortunately, it was unsuccessful. The blackout eventually covered all of planet Earth, including her.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow she survived it and survived essentially the end of the world. Now, in later entries in the River Song story, she basically took Rachel under her wing, as posing as her adoptive aunt, or rather just her aunt. She took her to worlds far and wide using her vortex manipulator, which is how she uses to travel all throughout time and space.
The Doctor's
what?
Much to the Doctor's chagrin.
Yeah, but I mean, he gives her a pass.
Of course, it's because it's her.
Of course, as you probably should. But eventually, she made it all the way to this ship where the ship itself was supposed to be making a journey of a human colony from one planet to the other, but the journey itself was said to take 700 years. So the crew was essentially run by teenagers who, once they were old enough, they would wake their replacements from cryo sleep, or rather, cryo in suspended animation, so they can take over for them when they were too old to carry on with the mission, and they would eventually pass away, leading the way to the next generation to continue maintaining the ship until they're old enough. They're too old to carry on with the mission. They wake up their successor, and so on and so on and so forth, until they reach the end of the journey in 700 years. But Rachel decided to stick around on that ship to help maintain it, since she never technically ages, and she told River to pick her up when the journeys end. But then, obviously, because humans being what they are, the kids at the ship tricked her into essentially staying awake for all the 700 years while they go back to cryo sleep. And you can kind of tell that's River's song was not happy about that.
Oh,
but
shit.
yeah, but at that point, Rachel essentially wore out her battery, and that was kind of the end of that character.
What a dude! What a bunch of douches.
Hey, man, humans, what are you gonna say?
We suck.
It's not like her parents, who loved her, essentially gave their lives so that she could go on, even though she was a synthetic. But I mean, hey, some humans be like this, and some humans be like this. Yep. But here's the real kicker here. So the character Rachel Burroughs was played by Alex Kingston's daughter.
Oh, no kidding.
Salome Hartnett. I apologize, I can't remember the name, her last name, but yeah, that was Alex Kingston's daughter, Salome.
And then there's some, I like that.
And there was some really cool stories in the behind the scenes stuff where she mentions that she grew up on the set of Doctor Who. This young actress Salome, and she basically during breaks she talks about how she played football with Matt Smith, real football, not the American thing.
I know.
Yeah, but she what a great life for that young girl. I'm actually really jealous, even though I don't play football myself. Just growing up on the set of Doctor Who and actually being a character in Doctor Who as basically her first acting job. And she said in those interviews that she caught the bug. She wants to continue on acting. So great start already. And in those 2 episodes that she was in, 3 episodes I should say, she was incredible, and I really liked that. So anything else you'd like to add on the character?
One, I think humans suck. 2, I think it was pretty cool that it was Alex Kingston's daughter that played her. I love it. I love it when they do things like that.
Yeah, and great way to start her off on her acting journey.
100%.
Speaking of humans who suck, let's talk about another robot that gave his all for humanity, and one of my favorite names in Doctor Who, alongside Ravish Mantelax, I suppose, Mark 7.
Okay.
Get it? Mark 7.
Oh, fuck. Is he the 7th version?
No, it's just
I got that. I got the joke. Mach 7.
Yeah, his name is Mark, and yeah, he's an android. Give him a number, so he's basically Mark 7.
Yep.
Yeah, and so basically,
Oh, good, I can't maneuver.
I just realized I uploaded the longer clip. Hold on.
That
was supposed to be stay on target.
Okay, fine. You get a pass on that one. But basically, Mark 7 was a member of the SSS, the Space Security. Wait a second. Oh shit! I might have messed up some here. Space Security Service. Sorry, right. I got there in the end. So he was a member of the Space Security Service, which was the same security corp that the character Sarah Kingdom was when she was introduced in the Daleks' Master Plan. And he also had several missions alongside Sarah Kingdom and her niece Anya Kingdom in the Lost Stories range on Big Finish. But apparently the character was so well beloved that they kept him on for the infamous Dalek Universe storyline alongside Anya Kingdom and the 10th Doctor.
Nice.
Which, of course, David Tennant reprised the role. So he was basically kind of a companion of the 10th Doctor in some of his later years. Now, obviously, he was a big part of the Space Security Service for many, many years. Unfortunately, he got really badly damaged during the Dalek Universe storyline and was left. He was presumed dead on one of the planets, where he essentially became the first Movellan. Are you at least in some way familiar with the Movellans?
No, this is the first time I've heard the term.
Okay, so the Movellans were a humanoid android race, entirely robotic, who essentially went to war with the Daleks, a war that had seemingly no end in sight, because they basically built this big logic computer, which was essentially meant to predict what the Daleks would do next. And so to counter that, the Daleks constructed their own logic computer, which was supposed to predict whatever the Movellans were going to do next. And essentially, the war between the Daleks and the Movellans essentially reached a stalemate where no shot was fired at all, because they kept trying to predict what the other would do. So they never actually acted on anything, because they always had a counter to whatever the other side was going to do.
It sounds like an intergalactic Cold War.
That's basically another one of the other names that war had. And the war itself was briefly featured in the Peter Capaldi episode, The Pilot, because Stephen Moffat loves his references. But essentially how the war ended was with the Daleks went back to the planet Scarrow to try and retrieve the corpse of Davros and bring him back to life so he could lead them into battle again. But which he eventually tried to do, while the 4th Doctor told the Movellans that the only way to win the war against the Daleks was to switch off their logic computer and actually fight the war properly. And of course, the resurrection of Davros is kind of what led to what eventually became the Dalek Civil War, where certain factions of the Daleks followed Davros, and some factions of the Daleks were loyal to the Emperor. But the Movellans essentially won the war when they created a neurogenic virus that basically attacked Dalek organic cells. Which sort of led to how Daleks basically became more robotic than organic. But yeah, they unleashed the virus on the Daleks themselves, and brought the Daleks not only to their knees, but brought the Daleks to very near extinction.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, but of course the Daleks eventually found a way around it through Dalek agents and through Davros, and basically the Movellans got what was coming to them in the end. But yeah, so anything else you'd like to add on this one?
Nope, just of course Stephen Moffat would always be cherry picking from the past.
Yeah, even if it's for a half-second scene.
But you know what? There's nothing wrong with that, because it just means that all of it happened. You know, like it's just in a sense it doesn't.
I mean, of course it happened. Didn't you watch the show?
But no, what I mean is like those events that are mentioned in these sources, like what we're discussing today. It's nice when they are mentioned on the show, because it just means now it's canon.
It was already canon. It's part of the show. It wasn't
I'm talking about the Mark part of it. The Mark 7 part of it.
No, but Mark 7 was not a part of that storyline that Stephen Moffat used. The character itself was introduced years after the episode aired.
No, but I mean, like how he ended up coming back and being the creator of that race.
Yeah, but that's not Stephen Moffat. That's the Big Finish team. Who retroactively made him
in this franchise.
Yeah. In other words, this is what Stephen Moffat wanted to say to the Big Finish people.
You're telling this story, or am I?
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I timed it perfectly.
Yep.
So, going back into the Sarah Jane Adventures realm, the next robots, or rather automatons, we will be discussing are yellow and red. Really, there is no name to these guys. They were never actually properly named. They were the planet of origin was never specified. The species was never given. They're just yellow and red. So for now, let's just call them ketchup and mustard because
Yeah, no kidding.
it kind of makes it easier. So in the show, when Clyde and Ronnie were trying to evade them, they were basically using a ketchup bottle and a mustard bottle for reference. It was like, okay, so these are the robots, and they took like salt and pepper and was like, and that's us. So so ketchup and mustard, they were introduced in the episode The Empty Planet, where Clyde and Ronnie woke up one morning and there was nobody there. All of planet Earth was gone, empty, no people, no nothing. They were completely alone, and there was this weird, creepy message on all TV screens, which basically showed a bunch of alien letters that didn't really make sense for them because they don't have the TARDIS's translation matrix. They have no idea what that countdown was all about. And there was these yellow and red robots, which again we're calling them ketchup and mustard. They were just following them around and trying to find them, and they didn't know what they were trying to say until eventually they realized that they weren't really evil. They were just looking for something, but they couldn't understand them. So Clyde eventually got them to speak the language in the best way possible.
Hold on, try this.
Input. Jordan Love, Red Shop, Labour Backbencher, Lady Gaga, Aston Villa Striker, Partly Cloudy.
Brilliant. They've got the language. They can communicate with us.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah, just flip the newspaper. And then they were like, Gerald Bradshaw, Lego, Batman, Lady Gaga, Audi. So yeah. So now these two robots know about Lady Gaga.
Right on. Mama.
Mama, yellow and red. So after that, they asked them to translate what the alien message said on the TV screens, which was basically a countdown. That's what it was all along. It was a countdown, counting down to the planet's destruction.
Naturally.
And they asked the robots, why are you doing this? But what the robots basically said is, give us sun and give us air. What can you make from that assumption? From that?
Well, I get they want our natural resources.
Okay, that's interesting. Or they wanted the sun and heir to the throne.
Oh, sun and hair. Oh,
yeah. Where they eventually discovered that there was only one other singular person on the planet with them, which was this kid right here, who was apparently the son and heir of a kingdom on a planet in a distant galaxy.
Interesting.
Which looked like this. They really just made this whole image for like half a second in the flashback.
Why am I getting? I'm getting flashbacks of Naboo.
Personally, I think this looks a bit more like Alderaan, but that's just me.
True, I don't. That's fair.
So eventually they found the kid, and they were able to realize that he was wearing a biodampener. That's why they couldn't find him. So they removed the biodampener, and they basically took the kid back to his own planet to be a prince. And he gave both Clyde and Ronnie a title of knighthood before leaving.
Right on.
So yeah, and then all the people on the planet came back, having no recollection of what just happened.
As is expected in Doctor Who.
Yeah, and if you want to know why Clyde and Ronnie were the only two people left on the planet, watch the season because it's amazing. It's great.
It's hard to find unless you want to buy it digitally over here.
Yeah, true.
I would like, because I've got all the Tennant stuff. I've got all Matt Smith stuff. Clearly, Torchwood on physical media. I would like to get Sarah Jane, but it's hard to find.
Yeah,
or expensive.
Or what?
Or expensive.
Yeah. But so good luck with that. And now we're on to the final robot on this list. And this one was kind of a last minute decision, but I kind of felt like I wanted to have him on the list because once again, I made the list for Marie Wilson. So this next robot right here is simply called Caw.
Caw. I like it. He's supposed to be a bird.
Yep, Caw.
That better not all be all he says.
Oh no, he speaks, he talks. But yeah, he's basically a pirate parrot, a
Very
robot pirate parrot.
Right on. Polly on a cracker. Caw.
Caw. Yeah, he eats gold.
Huh. That sounds like, what is that? The Nifflers from Harry Potter?
No, Nifflers, they just take things. They don't eat it. As far as I know.
Who am I thinking that only eats gold?
You're not paying attention to Bear. He's trying to get your attention.
I am. No, there's a creature in one of these universes that eats gold. What am I thinking of? I don't know.
Well, if you remember, make sure to let us know. So basically, Caw was the parrot servant of the ruthless Captain Balthazar, voiced by Anthony Head, who obviously known from Buffy, but he also previously was in
Reunion, one of my favorites.
Reunion. Yeah, he was Brother Lassa in School Reunion, and it was
an actress, and she was the main villain of the new D&D movie. I did not know that.
Who?
So Anthony Head's daughter.
Really, that was her.
And she plays the bad guy in the D&D movie. She plays the red
witch.
The red witch. Yeah, that's her. I saw that.
Yeah, I saw that movie 2 days ago.
What did you think?
It's great.
A D&D player.
As a non-D&D player, I loved it.
Yes.
Just please do not ask me to remember any of the names.
That's perfectly fine. But what I love is that they made D&D easy for anybody to understand, and it encapsulates all the greatness of D&D. So that's pretty cool to hear that you liked it.
Yeah, you don't have to be a fan to like the movie. It's a great movie.
And a little bit of a side tangent here. I will say, like they obviously use names of cities and stuff like that from the game, like Baldur's Gate. But what I love is if you've never played the game, it just sounds like a regular name. So it's not. Yeah. So great. Anyway.
Because they throw all these names at you fast and loose.
What I love, there were moments in the movie where bad things happen for comedic sake. Spoiler review, like when they try to sneak past the guards and the hologram is glitching. In my head, I'm like, oh, that's where a Nat 1 happened.
Stay on target. We're too close. Stay on.
You're telling the story, all right.
That was a gift war between the two of us.
A little bit. By the way, that is yours now.
Thank you. So going back into Balthazar, Captain Balthazar tried to destroy Earth, as you know,
as
it happens, and the Doctor stops him. Simple as that. Literally, that's the opening 2 minutes of the Infinite Quest, the episode that we're discussing at the moment. And Caw basically wanted to give Martha. It was 10th Doctor and Martha, by the way. Just want to point that out. Yes, he was 10th Doctor and Martha, and he gave Martha a present in the form of a small little pin with a miniature version of Caw in it. So as a sort of a present for releasing him, unbeknownst to them,
a little Caw machine.
Mini Caw. Unbeknownst to them, he was actually secretly working for Balthazar, who was very much alive and well. So, and he was following, and he introduced him to the Infinite Quest, which basically a quest to find the Infinite, one of the oldest treasure ships in the universe from the dark times of the universe. A ship with a treasure that allegedly could give you your heart's desires. And he told them that Balthazar was on the trail of the Infinite, so the Doctor takes one of the 4 chips that one can use to find the Infinite, and uses the TARDIS to track down the Infinite before Balthazar gets there. But later in the story, it's then revealed that Caw was actually playing them for a fool, and he was actually still working for Balthazar all along. And he felt bad about it. He tried to mutiny against Balthazar, and Balthazar killed him.
Bastard.
But don't worry, there's a happy ending, because apparently he had an offspring in the form of the little pin that he gave Martha, who basically grew into a much larger bird, not named Ka this time, but yeah, he helped the Doctor sort of travel through light speed to get back to the Infinite before Balthazar can use it and save Martha at the end.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very
Anyone-
wise very smart.
Yeah, if anyone mentions the Martha scene from Batman v Superman, I'm going to burst. But yeah, so what do you think of?
Nowhere near my brain till you brought it up.
Because yeah, I can't to me because I said save Martha at the end. But yeah, so what do you think of Ka?
I kind of like that story. Like, he's a double agent, but he's still not 100% sure. And then he ends up saving them with this gift. It's almost like he had it planned the whole time. And the gift with his son, like I said, it was a claw machine.
Ka.
No, I like that.
Now, unlike Dreamland, I would say that the animation holds up a little bit more in the Infinite Quest.
I thought that was a comic book at first.
No. It was an all animated episode. I believe it was on the Totally Doctor Who show, which was sort of like a fan show at the time. And according to if you actually look at Martha's attire in the episode, this would seem to take place somewhere between the Dalek two-parter with Andrew Garfield and the Lazarus Experiment with Mark Gatiss. So, but that is a story for another time. Mr. Soda, what have you to say on all the robots we discussed today? First of all, of course, Vesuvius, Red, Mr. Red, Rachel Burroughs, Mark 7, Ketchup and Mustard, and of course, Ka.
I kind of would. I would like to see a few of these go the way of Beat the Meat, and make their way into the TV show at some point. I think you could. Ka's kid.
I mean, Russell T Davies is at the helm.
Exactly, and he said that. Like, I've heard that he wants to make like a big Marvel style universe. So basically, anything's possible at this point.
Yeah. When he says that he wants the Marvel style universe, what immediately came to my head is like
The world.
everything Big Finish has been doing for the past 20 years in live action.
Yeah. Or officially making it canon.
Well, I mean, it doesn't need to be canon, especially for Doctor Who, doesn't matter as much.
I guess wobbly timey-wimey, yeah.
Yeah, wibbly wobbly timey-wimey. But you know what I want? What the hell was that?
Wasn't me.
It wasn't me. But you know what I want the most? Live action Frobisher.
Yeah.
Give us live action. Come on, Russell TV. Give us a live action Frobisher.
No.
And,
outside of Beat the Meat, that's like one of the more. Yeah. That like if you brought Meat now, you could easily bring Frobisher. That would be awesome.
If you go over Facebook, as soon as Beat the Meat was introduced in that trailer, everyone was buzzing. So when are we getting Frobisher? When is Frobisher going to show up? Because in one of the episodes, I think in Time Heist, there's like a moment where it's a blink and you'll miss it cameo, but you see like all these different random prisoner characters showing up on a flapping screen. One of the characters was Absalom Duck, the Dalek killer, which was also introduced in the Doctor Who magazine comics. And then there was Frobisher right alongside him. I'll look up the scene if I can find it, but
yeah, if I remember correctly, in my comic book Prisoners of Time, which I'm not going to go get because it's in the other room, I'm pretty sure Frobisher is one of the companions that gets taken.
Not only that, he has a major role to play in that comic and basically ends up saving all the Doctors.
Yes, I'm like, I know he's in there somewhere.
Yeah, but that sort of is a story for another time. So now we got your final thoughts. Why don't I say we wrap this up?
Let's do it.
So yeah, where can the good people of the interwebs find you when you're not going around saying "caw"?
You could find me on this channel on our other show, Mine and 50s Fun with Flags, which we will be recording after we record this. And then every once in a while on Monday or Friday on the Hotel Network, you can find me live streaming Monday Night Raw over there. Just depends on how our schedules line up and if weather decides to be nice. And then coming up at the end of next month, pay attention to mine and my buddy Dagan's social medias. We will be launching our own wrestling channel, and spoilers, 50 will be involved in there somehow. I'm not saying anything besides that. But let's say it's got potential to be fun.
Yep. I always try to bring the fun wherever I go. And as for me, you can find me every Monday on this show, Greatest Show in the Galaxy, every Thursday with this gentleman on Fun with Flag, and also on my own YouTube channel, 50 Shades of Geek, where I go through every single episode of Doctor Who from 1963 all the way to 2022 and review them, as well as various other trailer reactions and stuff whenever I have the time to do those. Also on this channel, you can also find Have You Seen This with regular guests on the show, Snark and David and Dave. And over on the Multiverse of Geekdom,
I mean, Dave and Dan. You said David and Dave.
Yes, I did. Oops. Okay, now we really need a womp womp sound clip. I'll try to find one later. But anyways, so yeah. So have you seen this one over on the Multiverse of Geekdom?
Sorry, I had to on that one.
Will you stop interrupting me?
Hey, it would have happened sooner if it was easier to find.
Anyways, so take 3. Multiverse of Geekdom, our good friend Ben has his own legacy channel over there with our good buddies Dawn and Midnight and Joe and Jason and various other good people. Sora's there regularly on the, what's it called, Titans of
I
the
was actually just going to bring that. I didn't want to interrupt you to do it. Yeah, there's a show over there called Titans of the Turf. Basically, what it is it's fantasy football, but instead of drafting football players, we're drafting people from all over pop culture, and the game mechanism is based around a D&D die-based system. It's been a lot of fun. My match against Frenchie, our friend, last week, it was just bonkers. Like, you have to check it out. It was just bonkers. He got screwed by the dice in that game. That's the only hint I'm going to give you.
All I care about is that Frenchie got screwed.
Yeah, all because he doesn't like the meddling monk.
Yes, absolutely.
Extremely irritating, irresponsible meddler.
Takes one to know one.
Calls himself the monk.
He doesn't, you know. Honestly, throw on a cassock a couple of times and you're typecast.
Honestly, we can go on forever with just the plugs. That's what happens when you get the two of us in the room together. But yeah, you should also probably, if you're a fan of Marie Wilson, you should also check out all of her stuff on Elia Morgaine and StarWarsReview.blogspot.com. I really hope I said that right. And she also has a show called Afra's Artifacts, where she dives into the queer side of Star Wars, as well as she also was a long co-host of our good friend Taco on Let's Talk About Star Wars over on his channel, Something to Talk About, which currently is inactive, but there's a lot of really great content on there that you should probably watch, including a show where I gave Pokemon types to 59 Doctor Who characters, some of which also included Mr. Dread, Rachel Burrows, and of course, Caw! So go ahead and check that out. And until the next time, everybody.
Us and all of these different shows over there as well. I've done shows over there as well. Good content. Like he said, it's not active right now, but there still is a lot of good content to go watch on that channel.
Yeah, and it's a really fun ride. So, in the words of the mistress herself,
don't forget to like and subscribe.